an office space, a plant hospital, 2 cafeterias, and employed 1,000 people. The building itself cost more than $6 million, a bargain by today's standards. On December 3, 1947, employees proudly celebrated the plant's first production unit, a 114-inch light-duty truck. Less than a year later, in the spring of 1948, the plant began passenger car production. Over the years, employees at the Hapeville site assembled a variety of vehicles, including the Falcon, Fairlane, Torino, Zephyr, Fairmont, LTD, and LTD2, Granada, Marquis, Cougar, Thunderbird, and Ranchero. They even built F-1 and F-5 pickups for the government in 1951, and later produced F-100 trucks for the Air Force. A little more than 7 years after beginning production, the plant built its 500,000th unit, a white convertible. By now, the plant's reputation was growing, as evidenced by a visit from a group of publicists and government officials representing 9 NATO countries in 1955. In November of that year, another production milestone was reached when the Hapeville facility totaled more than 100,000 units assembled in a single year. Atlanta's early success convinced Ford Motor Company to invest in a major expansion of the plant. When the project was completed in 1957, the plant's floor space was increased to more than 1.7 million square feet, and production was nearly doubled to 540 units daily using 1 shift and overtime. Even in the plant's early years, employees were active in such key initiatives as saving materials, high-quality work, and contributing ideas. In fact, a regular in the plant newspaper was Old Scratch, who served as a reminder to be careful not to damage cars and trucks. Current employee Bill Young, shown in this 1957 photo, can attest to how plant employees have strived to produce high-quality vehicles over the years. He's been a member of the award-winning Hapeville workforce since 1952.
I think they have always taken pride in their quality, as well as the employees of today. I think each man takes a special pride, as well as them, in the product that we build. Makes you feel good to be able to tell your friends and neighbors when somebody asks you about the automobile that you build out here, to say we build the best product on the road.
In the 1960s, the Atlanta assembly plant continued to add to its list of accomplishments. May of 1960 saw the plant reach the 1 million unit mark in production. The vehicle was a Fairlane 500 purchased by a female customer. 1960 also was the year the plant became an exclusive car-producing facility. Another memorable event occurred in February of 1965 when a second shift was added.
We did a very thorough job of screening out people. Before that was, and we had a very successful launch of the situation because they had full cooperation from the union, and it took a lot of hard work, dedicated people, but the job was done.
The Atlanta plant grabbed international headlines in 1979 when Chinese Vice Premier Deng Xiaoping made Hapeville among his stops as U.S. and Chinese officials celebrated full diplomatic relations between the two countries. Then, later in the year, Ford Motor Company Chairman Henry Ford II was honored by the plant when it renamed an adjacent street in his honor.
I'm very deeply appreciative of the fact that you've named this street after me. I couldn't think of a finer place to have such a thing done. And we are, as I said, all very proud of this plant. And we have been, and I'm sure we will be in the future.
And Ford was right. Atlanta Assembly continued to shine in the years ahead. One of its finest hours was the successful launch of the original Ford Taurus and Mercury Sable in 1985.
When we first were awarded the Taurus, I felt very elated about it, and everyone here was quite excited. But yet, as the reality set in and the pressure of knowing how much this meant to the company, the weight on my shoulders got heavier and heavier.
But Ford and Hapeville employees responded to the challenge. The Taurus was a resounding success, winning numerous awards and providing a much-needed boost to the bottom line of a struggling Ford Motor Company. Meanwhile, Atlanta plant employees kept pushing quality and productivity levels to new heights. In 1991, Ford Chairman Alex Trotman personally congratulated the plant on earning Ford Motor Company's coveted Q1 Quality Award.
Keep it going. Congratulations on a great job. I'm really proud of you. Onward and upward to the Atlanta assembly plant.
In 1993, a freshened Taurus built at Atlanta and at a Ford plant in Chicago unseated the Honda Accord as the best-selling car in America and repeated the feat the following year.
For Ford workers, it's the icing on the cake. For the second straight year, the Taurus ranked as the best-selling car in America.
I salute you. I thank you. I say, what a hell of a way to start off the new year.
1995 saw Atlanta employees take on another challenge, building the uniquely styled 1996 Ford Taurus and Mercury Sable.
America has its eye on us. Japan has its eye on us. Europe has its eye on us. And I have no doubt in my mind, because we have the best workers in the world, that they can keep their eye on us because we're going to be leading the pack. Is that right?
The quality, design, and attention to detail of these new cars will be a symbol around the world of how good an American car can be and how good American auto workers are.
Just how good Hateville employees are was a critical factor in President Bill Clinton's decision to showcase the Atlanta plant on the first anniversary of the government's agreement with Japan to ship right-hand drive cars to that country. Plant manager Jim Hill was selected to speak about the U.S. auto industry and introduce the president. The following year, in 1997, Atlanta employees were in the spotlight again when J.D. Power and Associates announced the results of its 1997 New Vehicle Quality Study. Atlanta tied with the Honda plant in Ohio for the best quality of any assembly facility in the world that supplies new vehicles to the North American market.
Based on the results, I have no doubt that the people in this room really understand what customer satisfaction is all about and what high quality means to our customer base.
Today, the Atlanta assembly plant employs more than 2,700 men and women who proudly produce the Ford Taurus and Mercury Sable sold in markets around the world. The Atlanta plant has changed a lot since that historic first unit in 1947. The facility has grown to 2.5 million square feet, with frequent improvements helping to keep Hateville among the most technologically advanced automotive assembly plants in the world. And the faces of those who work here have changed over the decades too. But one important factor has not: the dedication of the plant's employees. It's the main reason the Atlanta plant is one of the highest quality, most productive plants of its kind anywhere.
Our employees here at Atlanta have an outstanding passion and desire to be the highest quality, low-cost automobile plant in the world. It's inbred in our employees that they just do the very best job they can do here.
In the years to come, I know personally just about everybody in this plant. Had contact with them at one time or another. I know how they think. And Atlanta's number one, and that's the way they're going to keep it. I'm sure of that.
How'd you like that video? Our people produced that here at the plant. Moving along with the program, I'd now like to introduce some of our distinguished guests here today. And I'm going to start with some of our public officials. On his second visit this year to the plant, John Lewis, U.S. Congressman from Georgia's 5th District. John, thanks for being here today. Kathy Cox, Assistant Secretary of State. Floyd Griffin, State Senator. Steve Hansen, State Senator. Judge Elmo Bowden, representing Donzella James, our State Senator. Terrell Starr, State Senator. Terrell, good to see you. Frank Bailey, State Representative. Roy Barnes, State Representative. Jimmy Benefield, State Representative. Pleasure to have you here today. Gail Buckner, State Representative. Greg Heck, State Representative. And Bill Lee, State Representative. And a veteran of this plant in the Industrial Relations Department, Mr. C.C. Martin, Mayor of Hapeville. C.C. must be hiding. And now let me introduce some of our guests from the Ford management team. Mr. Jim Tucker, the Director of Joint Programs. Bob Marson, Director of U.S. Union Affairs. Rich Arb, he's our Regional Manager here for Ford Division. Rich, thanks. Steve Rutherford, Regional Manager from Ford Credit. Steve Rabita, Regional Operations Manager, Ford Division. And Don Phillips, I think Don made it, our Commercial Truck Manager. Appreciate you all being here. I also want to recognize Al Kent and Bo Marlowe. Al's the president of the local, and we appreciate the work you guys have done to help us plan this event. Thank you. Thanks to all of our guests for being here today. We appreciate you being here and celebrating this important milestone with us. Now I'd like to turn the microphone over to one of the key leaders at Atlanta Assembly. He consistently works toward win-win solutions to some of the tough business issues that face all assembly plants. And he's helped drive this plant to keep improving. The chairman of UAW Local 882, Mr. Jimmy Rutherford. Jimmy.
Thank you, Jim, for that kind introduction. I'd like to welcome everybody to the 50th anniversary of Atlanta Assembly Plant, the best assembly plant in the world. I'm glad everybody came out. That's right, best assembly plant in the world. I noticed we have a lot of retirees here today, and a lot of the workers. It's nice the families can come out and get to see the plant and see what the people do, because the people is the ones that really drive this plant. They want to be number one, and that's what keeps it that way. It's not very much you can say outside of that. I'm going to keep mine short because we got a big program this afternoon, and while I'm on that subject, I would like to recognize, I can't do it individually by name because there's a lot of them, but the committee that put this thing together, I think they need a good hand because they have done a great job, and we appreciate you. Good job, guys and gals. There's not much more I can say except one thing about the Atlanta Assembly Plant workers. It's the old saying, the job done here is the excellence of execution. We have the best there is, the best there was, and the best that'll ever be working at this plant. And that's the way I feel from my heart about that. And I have a couple of people now I would like to introduce to you from the National Quality Committee, Mr. Doug Thompson. I don't see him sitting in the row. There he is out there. Good job, Doug. He's the one that helps get the T-shirts for the plant. Got some more coming. Good job, Doug. My boy said, hey, he looks just like Uncle Jerry. I said, yeah, he's a good guy, guys. He's a good guy. And this next man I'm fixing to introduce, he needs no introduction wherever he goes. He has done more for the UAW. And the working relationship between Ford Motor Company and the UAW, I'm proud to introduce my friend and friend of this plant, Mr. Joe Riley. Joe, come on up here and say a couple of words. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jim, and good morning, one and all. It clearly is a pleasure to be back here again with the committee and all the people in the Atlanta plant. I certainly thank you for the invitation to be here, Jim, this morning, you and the committee. And Jim is also my good friend here, the plant manager, and all the management side. And it's a pleasure to be here. I'd also like to bring you greetings this morning from Ernie Lofton, my boss in Detroit. You saw him earlier on the video. Ernie would have loved to have been here today, but we've got a lot of meetings going on in Detroit this week and today, and I'll be back joining him later in the day. But he wants me to wish you all the very best in your celebration of the 50th, and certainly look forward to another good 50 years around Atlanta here. But it is I'd like just to make a comment on myself about the fact that I've been coming in and out of this plant now for 20 years. I haven't learned the drawl yet. I haven't got rid of that Irish accent yet, so it's hard for me to pick up the Southern. But I noticed Jim Hill is talking a little different these days. He's only been down here a short while. But it clearly is a pleasure to be here, because I agree with what Jim Rutherford said. It clearly is the best workforce there is in any Ford plant. There's no better, in my view, anywhere in this world than it's been in the Atlanta plant. And it's a credit to all the people that's here, both the present workers and the past workers. And certainly we look forward to the future workers following that tradition. The Atlanta Assembly plant has changed the same way as the Atlanta city itself has changed. It's a great cosmopolitan city as it is today. And even this plant has got to the same. There's a great cosmopolitan plant in this. All the people, it used to be from this plant, were from Atlanta and from the local area. Now they come from all over, and we see people with different accents and different dialogues and different backgrounds. And that's how the world is changing, and I think it's a great change. I think that people learn to work together. We bring in the best from all over the world, and I think that's what makes this a great company and this a great union. Jimmy made mention of the fact that I do work on trying to improve the relationships, and everyone knows me, and I see Jesse and others over there. Probably we come out of that old school when you weren't allowed to have those relationships. But I think I see Pete George back here this morning, and Pete and I can go back a few years here, and that was the start, in my view, of how we started to change our relationships and how we do things differently in the Ford Motor Company. And he brought a lot of great managers behind him, and they're here today. And I see one of them sitting out in front of me here, and I don't know why he's not up here with me, because him and I had a few battles over the years, but clearly a great guy and a great leader and a great person for the Ford Motor Company. And it's a pleasure for me to be here today with all those people. I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but I would like to say that I think Ford Motor Company is on the right track. I do believe the things that Ford Motor Company is doing worldwide today are clearly not only good for the workers in the plant, but for the Ford Motor Company, but for the society we live in. I'm always pleased to come to a meeting like this when I see a lot of the politicians from the state come in, because we compete against all these other countries around the world. And if you go to these other countries, the first thing you find that there's no separation between management and union and the banks and the political people that run the country. They all compete together to check the work and to make their plants better and make their products better and compete against the world. So I'm always pleased when I come in to a plant like this, whether it be in this part of the world or other parts of our country, and see that. I think that's a great change. I think that's time that has came, and I think together we can do great things. There used to be a time we all did things separately, and of course it didn't work. Today we get together. It's still very hard to do, but working together we can clearly get to the future. Again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. I'm looking forward to the music we're going to hear. I'm not going to compete in that field, but it is a pleasure to be here, to see all of us together on a Saturday morning, for everyone to come out like this. It's just a credit. It surely tells me and others that's here just how much the people respect this plant and this union and this company, and they're working together, and it's a pleasure to be here. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you being here today. I know you had a tight schedule, and we appreciate it. Now, for most of you, this next gentleman needs no introduction. He maintains a visible presence on our plant floor, never failing to recognize employees at our monthly retirement ceremonies, our anniversary award get-togethers, and participating in community relations events. He's a veteran leader in this, his 8th vehicle assembly plant, please join me in welcoming one of the best people plant managers in the Ford Motor Company system, Mr. Jim Hill.
Thank you, Jim. Welcome to our celebration. We have all the ingredients present today to make this a great day, mainly because we have the greatest employees in the world and their families here. We have many honored guests here. We have entertainment here. We have food, lots of food. We have games. We have a vintage car display. We have a memorabilia area to which many of our employees have contributed. We certainly believe this will be one of the finest days in our 50-year anniversary. It's truly an honor for me to participate in this celebration of our 50th anniversary. After 32 years with the company and 7 previous assembly plants, I lucked out and ended up with the cream of the crop. And you truly are the cream of the crop. Worldwide, throughout the auto industry, our employees have an outstanding reputation for producing high-quality, cost-efficient vehicles. The primary reason for this reputation is you, our outstanding employees, and your dedication to the Ford Motor Company, the UAW, and to the Atlanta Assembly Plant. This dedication has been passed on from previous generations. We have many second and third generation employees in our current workforce. And speaking of previous generations, we have with us today several guests that have made significant contribution to our reputation and success and helped establish the strong foundation that we have built upon. I'd now like to introduce 3 of these guests. Our first guest was the plant manager from 1961 to 1973. That's 12 years. We two-shifted the plant for the first time under his tenure. We first had back-to-back launches here. First time any plant had built frame and uniframe bodies on the same line. We had the first female supervisor here, Nell Hudgens.